Hey all, here OS Reviews. Over the years, we've taken a look at many types of smart lamps and lights, some of them which have smart features like wireless charging, controllable using your smartphone, and others which just have a simple yet very elegant design like the hung balance lamp which we saw last year. Yet another example would be the chameleon blocks which we saw just a few months back, which can be rearranged as modular lights. So as we've learned, lights can be not only useful but add to the ambience and the atmosphere of a room, or could be an art statement or conversation starter in its own right. Today we're taking a look at a product called the E.P.Light, and it's very artistic. It's inspired by an artist called Jackson Pollock in terms of its design, very minimalistic and clean. Here's a quick demo video. So it simply illuminates by attaching it onto this base, and you can change the various types of bulbs, and they all have this really crazy design, many which look like crystals or just objects from different planets even, out of this world. So very vibrant and colorful, and definitely changes up the feeling of a room, even though this particular lamp doesn't have too many smart features in the typical sense. For example, it doesn't connect to your phone or using Bluetooth, anything like that, but still is so beautiful to look at that I wanted to share it with you guys. The lights themselves use LED and also claim to be very safe and drop resistant even, so there's probably a kind of rubber-like material that it's being made out of. Now the thing to note though is that these are not going to be really a replacement for a huge desk lamp or a office light, because it still is relatively small. It's really just meant to add a touch of color, more like a mood light than anything else. And the pricing actually isn't too high. You can purchase a bulb for just $16 for something that's handcrafted individually. Now it also goes up a little bit in terms of pricing depending on the size of the bulb, so 250 grams versus 150 grams has a few dollars difference. You can also purchase a bundled set along with some of the base if you want to add a collection or use it for gifting. There's actually a flap which is magnetic, which we can open up and see the light inside, which as you can see here, this is one of the smaller 150 or 160 gram versions. Here's the second one, which is a more traditional sized bulb, this one which looks like the sea almost. Also just extremely beautiful to look at, and shimmers and changes colors depending on the view. And all of these are using a standard plug, by the way, as far as being insertable into any standard socket. You can put it onto a ceiling. You can use your base because it's made for the light and made out of wood, but any standard socket will do if you only want to buy the light bulb itself. So anyways, the packaging I think is done pretty well considering the overall very affordable price. So here's just a closer look at the individual lights. This first one, which is a small version. The overall material here is not quite as soft as I was expecting based on the commercial. I thought it would be made out of rubber or something. It still feels relatively firm, but it does have some shock absorbency to it. It's very mesmerizing to look at, and there's definitely lots of layers that you can just observe and look at. Here we have the second color, which again just looks like a ice blue color in my opinion. We have just these tendrils, almost looks like mushrooms or kind of floating jellyfish, which are swimming around in this murky water. Also very beautiful to look at, and once again you can't really notice where the bulbs, where the LEDs are hidden, so it's disguised pretty well. And finally the third color here, which I think is my personal favorite, again very mesmerizing with lots of layers inside that you can look at, and kind of shifts colors and textures as you point it at various angles. And again, that's kind of the difference there in terms of the size. If you're comparing it, these are kind of the standard bulbs, and then we have the smaller variant there, which sell for a few dollars apart. The base itself is really as simple as it gets. It's just made out of a chunk of wood and has a switch just to turn it on or turn it off. And that's basically it. It is missing some soft touch rubber feet on the bottom in my opinion, so it does slide very easily on a slick surface, which is one potential con, but otherwise it is very elegant and indeed eco-conscious. So when you're ready, you can simply twist the lamp inside of its base, and it kind of snaps in with a satisfying click. There are also other variants of the base which you can put it on upside down, which in my opinion looks a little bit more avant-garde and interesting, but this one works as well. And when you insert it, it looks like there's water, again just floating around inside, which changes sheens as you look at it from different angles. So let's try turning this particular light on with a flick, and that's what it looks like. So all the little pieces which are floating just illuminates and turns on to life. It becomes the most dramatic and obvious in a darkened environment, and you can kind of see all the various layers from different angles. Definitely a conversation starter and a very beautiful mood lamp. Otherwise, if you point it at a ceiling, you can kind of see that's where what it looks like. It casts a kind of an interesting shadow because of the various layers, and more importantly, you can kind of see there's about 6 LEDs underneath in the base, which are producing the overall light. So in terms of the lamp itself, it is producing a pretty scattered light, 360 degrees, perhaps with a bit more of extra light shining through to the top, as you can see there, which is kind of interesting. So it makes the ceiling pretty bright, and it certainly is good enough for walking around in a dark hallway, at home, maybe in the office, without tripping over anything accidentally, but it's not going to be sufficient for the purposes of, say, reading. This one has a slightly more bluish sheen to it, but still very beautiful to look at. It reminds me more of ice. Maybe a good choice in the winter, perhaps. If we look very closely, again, this is what it looks like. All the individual pieces floating inside are very much visible. The same LED array is used at the base. All right, our last bulb here has been inserted. We can flick it on to life, and again, this one is probably my favorite out of the bunch. It's the most mysterious looking, I'd say, and has the most distinct layers inside. Of course, because these are handcrafted, I can't guarantee that two will be identical. They'll have the same style and same color, but some of the forms might be a little bit different depending on which one you choose. So that's been our hands-on review of the EP lamp. Again, it doesn't have the most smart features, and it's a little bit far from what we typically cover on this channel. But because of its really distinctive look, its focus on environmental friendly materials, I thought it would be still worthwhile to share in case any of you guys are interested. And again, it is a project that you can also find on Kickstarter. So you can check out more details if interested in the links down below, but for now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the EP Lamp Artistic Energy Efficient LED based lamps.